These are some of the worst sin to do. Stay tuned to listen to the top 7 worst sins they are. Number 1. Gluttony seems to be a sin that Christians like to ignore. We are often quick to label smoking and drinking as sins, but for some reason gluttony is accepted or at least tolerated. Many of the arguments used against smoking and drinking, such as health and addiction, apply equally to overeating. Many believers would not even consider having a glass of wine or smoking a cigarette but have no qualms about gorging themselves at the dinner table. This should not be. Number 2. Sloth, sin of laziness. We often think of a couch potato as being slothful. However, the sin of sloth does not refer to physical tiredness, fatigue, or aversion to work, but rather to spiritual laziness, a carelessness or lack of enthusiasm about the life of my soul, the love of God and the mission He has given me. It is a weariness or boredom of the soul that leads to despair. Number 3. Envy, that ugly and pointless thing we call jealousy. Envy is something that most people are familiar with. When we see that someone has something we would like to have, physical possessions, or personality traits, or ministries, or talent, then a natural human reaction is to envy them. It takes a conscious work to become free from it, so that we can be thankful for what we have been given and rejoice with those who rejoice. It is not a sin to be tempted to envy, but if it is allowed to live and fester, it becomes destructive. Why is envy sin? Because it divides people. It destroys relationships, sows discord, and creates a spirit of bitterness and evil. It causes people to act and speak in toxic ways. To become envious is definitely a sin, and is defined as such in God's Word. Number 4. Wrath, sin of anger. Wrath can be summarized as strong vengeful hatred or resentment. The warnings of wrath in Christianity arise from the consequences of vengeance in human relations. We can become consumed by rage and revenge to the point of acting irrationally and immorally. This is the wickedness of wrath and why it is included as a deadly sin. Number 5. Lust, uncontrollable desire for someone, or in my case, something. Lust has as its focus pleasing oneself, and it often leads to unwholesome actions to fulfill one's desires with no regard to the consequences. Lust is about possession and greed. The Christian faith is about selflessness and is marked by holy living. Number 6. Pride, you look fabulous. Pride is often considered a negative force in human existence, the opposite of humility and a source of social friction. It's even been called the deadliest sin. Pride makes us feel good, and it's an indication to ourselves that we are behaving in a way congruent with the values of our society, says Tracy. Lastly, number 7. Greed. Greed is a deadly sin because it destroys our capacity to trust God. It suggests that we can secure ourselves and please ourselves by the possession of things rather than in obedient relationship with God. It destroys our concern for our neighbor and for their enough. Greed makes us small. But in a consuming world, can we imagine ourselves unplugged from greed? Is there a spiritual laxative that can loosen the constipation of stuff that clogs our soul? Stuff that is consumed but never passes through our hands. Stuff that clutters our lives like trinkets in a musty attic. That would be all. Thanks for watching. Make sure to support me by subscribing and leave a like. Thanks.